Morning. You are, we can't hear you, Matt.
How about now? Great.
Yeah, I was hoping we can start on time. I still got to drive up for our 10 o'clock Senate session.
Well, you're lucky you don't live in Stanford.
I am lucky. Although Stanford's a
only
lovely,
only for this purpose.
yes, Stanford's a lovely place. I enjoy my visits there.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I will hereby call to order this meeting of the Government Administration and Elections Committee. We'll just wait for a minute as we wait for everyone to get online. I'll just announce now before we get into the business of the committee for today that we will be holding votes open until the first of the two houses to go into session today, which will be the Senate at 10 a.m. All right, it looks like we're ready to go. Are there any remarks from my co-chair? Seeing none. Any remarks from the rankings? Seeing none, we'll move to item or Roman numeral number 3 on our agenda, referred resolutions for consideration. The first is item number 1, HJ 215, resolution memorializing Congress to repeal the government pension offset and windfall elimination provision. The chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Moved by Representative Morambello, seconded by Representative Berger-Gervallo. This resolution comes to us from the Labor Committee. It's file number 292, and it does exactly what it says it does. Is there discussion from the committee? Representative Master-Francesco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Yeah, so this bill did come from the Labor Committee. My concerns about this bill today is that this really is a federal issue dealing with Social Security, something that I don't think that this committee should be making a statement on. Certainly, I support our teachers 100%, and I'm certain they have issues with this, but we do have congressmen and senators in the state of Connecticut representing the state and on the federal level, and this is something that they should be dealing with. So I will not be supporting this today, but I just wanted to get that on the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Further discussion from the committee, Senator Sampson.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the recognition. Just listening to my co-ranking member and wondering how this comes to us. Mr. Chairman, where did this bill come from?
To you, to the distinguished ranking member, it comes from the Labor Committee.
I appreciate that, but do we know, where it came from before that? Was it introduced by an individual member or organization?
To you, I don't know the provenance of the bill beyond the fact that the chairs raised it this session, and as all the members know, during the short session, only chairs may raise bills or have the power to raise, committees only have the power to raise bills. I don't know who urged its raising before then. As the good representative indicated previously, this has been an issue that teachers have been very concerned about for a long time, but otherwise, I don't know. To you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. I understand you're kind of at a disadvantage, being that this is a referred bill. It did not originate in this committee and so forth. However, I mean, it is our responsibility to debate and understand, policy before advancing it. And, I asked many of these similar questions as I also serve as the ranking member of the Labor Committee. And unfortunately, even in that committee where this bill did originate, they did not have a lot of answers for me either. My understanding is that this bill, if passed in the Connecticut legislature, will have no impact on policy either at a state or federal level. Am I correct about that?
To you, Senator, you're right. It will have no direct effect on policy at the federal or state level. It merely urges our federal delegation and federal officials to take action on this issue. To you.
Understood, Mr. Chairman. So we're this bill is being offered for an up or down vote purely for political purposes, to send a message to Congress to act on this particular issue, I'm guessing. Is that correct?
To you, I wouldn't say political purposes. I would say that it is, as you said, meant to send a message to Congress, to the federal government, to make a change in policy and to express the sentiment of the legislature should it pass. To you.
I understand. But we'll have to agree to disagree on whether that's political or not. I mean, I think that's the very definition. We either do politics or we do policy. And, I often speak up when I think that, certain types of bills and resolutions that come before our various committees are more political in nature than they are policy oriented. And this one strikes me as extremely political. Do we, can you give me another example where we've done something similar, where we have passed a resolution urging Congress to take action on legislation that is before Congress. Through you, Mr. Chairman.
To you, Senator, I am not aware of us having passed one through both houses of the General Assembly during my time in it. I think in past years we've done a resolution expressing recognizing the sister state relationship between the state of Connecticut and Taiwan. Other than that, I'm not aware of specific instances to you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I mean, that's a separate thing. That's a relationship between the state of Connecticut and Taiwan. I don't think it has anything to do with the federal government. And I'm not aware of a previous situation of the Connecticut General Assembly passing a resolution, suggesting that Congress takes action on a particular issue. I mean, that's why we have Congress. I'm a firm believer in the right sizing government. We have elected officials at the municipal level, the state level, the federal level. Some states have county government. And each one of those specific layers of government performs a specific role. And when you have policy that is being debated and discussed on a federal level, I mean, I believe that's best left up to them. That'd be like me, interjecting in a town council meeting somewhere in Connecticut and trying to express my opinion about what they should do. And I've always felt that was improper. And I also believe that the people that elect us are the power in our political process. That's the beauty of our great country. And I just think when you start to mix and match who's debating policies at different levels, you're undermining the decisions they've made to elect various people. Like, I know people that they split their ticket. They want to vote for certain elected officials to make certain decisions for their town, but they may have a different opinion about the direction of the state or federal government. So I think this is confusing the issue. Just getting into it. And admittedly, I don't know anything about this. I mean, I have a basic understanding from reading the bill, but this is not the type of policy that we've debated in the past. Mr. Chairman, are you aware of whether or not this legislation is actually advancing through Congress?
To you, I am not aware of specific legislation advancing this issue through Congress at this point. I did want to just amplify my further answer. Some of my ignorance was corrected, or maybe shorter experience by one of my colleagues. And there have in the past been a few of these sorts of resolutions relating to veterans issues in particular, in relation to recognition of disability, in relation to Agent Orange exposure during the Vietnam War, or some items like that. The good senator is correct that we rarely pass them out of both chambers, but I just wanted to make sure that I corrected the record on my answer previously. But again, to the good senator, I'm not aware of legislation right now that's working its way through Congress on this issue.
Thank you for the reply, Mr. Chairman. I'd be very curious to have that information about the Agent Orange bill. You may not be aware, but I have proposed a bill recognizing veterans exposed to Agent Orange in multiple sessions, and including this one. And it's already passed through the House. I want to thank you for your vote on that, and hopefully it will get to the Senate and we can actually pass it into law this year. But so I'm curious about any previous legislation on that topic, particularly if it was something related to federal law. I'm only aware of the Agent Orange legislation that would require Connecticut to recognize those courageous and brave individuals we should remember. So let me just ask you a few questions about the policy itself, I guess. I mean, I have serious concerns about us engaging in this type of activity. I think it sets a very dangerous precedent. Now, anytime there is some sort of political movement to pass some sort of legislation through Congress, one of the stops for the various lobbying entities is going to be to get state legislatures to debate and vote on it also. And they're going to pick and choose, obviously, state legislatures where they feel that they're going to have an advantage. And that's going to be used as a mechanism to further amplify the, possibility that a bill might get passed. And you might say that that's a perfectly acceptable thing, except for the reasons I've already stated, which is that, our state government has its own responsibility. And the federal government has its own. Connecticut has 7 federal representatives. We have 2 U.S. senators. I think you're aware of them. And there are 5 congressmen. They're all Democrats. I'm not aware of whether or not they've advanced this type of legislation or not, although I'm well aware that this legislation, that this resolution hopes to memorialize is absolutely going through Congress. I was reading an article just before the meeting suggesting that they have over 300 co-sponsors in the House and over 50 sponsors in the Senate. Those are majorities. So it strikes me that this, should pass quite easily through Congress. And I know this is also not the first time. I think that the thing that is preventing them from passing it is the price tag, which I don't know if are you aware, Mr. Chairman, what the price tag of this proposed legislation is in Congress?
I'm not aware off the top of my head, Senator, but if you'd like to inform us, you are welcome to do so.
Yeah, I've just read that it's around $150 billion. And I just think that's a significant consideration. The little reading I did on this subject, and again, I don't want to call anybody out here, and I don't want to make a big issue of this situation, but I really do believe that this committee, as the Labor Committee is not informed enough to make an intelligent vote on this resolution. We do not serve in Congress. We do not have a significant understanding of the detailed financial ramifications of where the Social Security Trust Fund currently sits, and how these 2 provisions, the GPO and the WEP, would impact that Social Security Trust Fund. As I mentioned, I just read it was $150 billion. And I think that's the thing that's prevented this from happening. There's been overwhelming support for eliminating this for a number of years. I think that support is in large part a result of the fact that it's politically expedient to support government employees, teachers in particular, who cannot collect Social Security or are limited. As a matter of fact, Mr. Chairman, do you know exactly how this current windfall elimination provision operates in Congress?
To you, Senator, the provision essentially provision essentially causes a significant number of public employees to lose their spousal benefit under what's called the government pension offset formula. And that's regardless of whether the spouse paid Social Security taxes. And as a result, it reduces the Social Security benefits for these employees. They may have paid into Social Security, but because they get this other pension, then they don't get the Social Security benefits. And as a result, it deprives Connecticut retirees of roughly $557 per month in Social Security benefits that they consider duly earned under their payment into the system. And so I think that's basically the policy background, as you indicated. There is obviously a price tag that would be attendant to the policy if it were passed through Congress. It would affect roughly 2 million government employees, including the majority of Connecticut teachers who are subject to this provision in current law as a result of participating in the state teacher retirement system. To you.
Thank you very much for the response, Mr. Chairman. But you answered me by explaining the government pension offset provision, and I asked about the windfall elimination provision. Can you? I understand the GPO, and I appreciate your explanation that it has to do with spousal benefits. But what about how does the windfall elimination provision work in Congress, in federal law?
To Senator, it eliminates reduces the Social Security benefit source for certain employees. As a result of, it reduces the Social Security benefits for certain employees who've earned another pension, essentially, to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Does that affect all government or employees, teachers, et cetera? Or at some point, are they still able to collect their Social Security benefits that they paid into?
To you, I believe some are able to collect Social Security benefits, some are not.
Understood. And do we know what that distinction is and why it was created in Congress?
To you, Senator, I would hesitate to describe the entire rationale, but I believe it was to achieve certain savings from the Social Security system. To you.
As far as you know, Mr. Chairman, are folks that have these types of employment or historically have, because I mean, we're talking about people who are seniors today, who are interested in collecting these Social Security benefits. Were they informed at the time that they took on their state or federal government position, or took a job as a teacher, that they would be receiving their benefits in the form of a pension and would therefore risk receiving some of their Social Security?
To you, Senator, I would hesitate to describe what happened to other people. But if there's a policy you'd like to explain, then you're welcome to do so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not interested in explaining anything. I'm interested in learning. My whole point today, and the reason why I'm asking these questions, is I don't believe that this committee has certainly no cognizance over this policy decision, which means we shouldn't be discussing it. The idea that the bill gets referred to our committee because we're the committee of cognizance is insanity, since we have no cognizance over a federal law. But the fact of the matter is, I don't believe we have the information necessary. We do not have the collective knowledge as a committee. I don't mean to besmirch anyone's intellect. It's just not about that. It's about the fact that this is federal law, and they have federal staff and research and intimate knowledge of the Social Security trust fund and how it works, and we don't. And I'll restate that this bill is here for political purposes. It is for the purpose of lobbying towards a particular goal. And I want to be very clear and suggest that I'm not for or against that. In fact, I'm very supportive. My girlfriend's a teacher, and I completely understand the concerns that many of the folks that have expressed to us about this policy. The fact of the matter is, whether I like it or not is not relevant. What is relevant is whether or not it's properly before the Connecticut General Assembly, properly before this committee, and something that we should be doing. And I really don't think it is. I think it is a recognition of the failure of Congress to act on this issue in some ways. But the way to respond to that is to encourage Congress to act. It shocks me that they could have 300 co-sponsors in the House and over 50 in the Senate, and yet there's no action taken. So our memorialization of this resolution doesn't seem to have much to do with that. There must be larger issues at stake, and I'm just trying to figure out what those are. Can you, Mr. Chairman, I know teachers are impacted and government employees, but does this mean that people today are still accruing their pension benefits in a way that might preclude them from receiving Social Security payments down the road? Is this still active policy?
To you, my understanding is yes.
Do you know if there's ever been any legislation offered to even change that prospectively?
To you, I'm sure that it has, lots of legislation has been offered in Congress, but I'm not aware of the specific legislation if it does exist. To you.
Mr. Chairman, do you know if any of the seven members of our federal delegation have offered legislation to repeal the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset provision?
I do believe that at least some of them have offered support, if they've not introduced it themselves, but I wouldn't want to speak for any of them here today. To you.
Yeah, thank you very, very much, Mr. Chairman. I could go on. I just reading through several articles written on this policy at the federal level. I've learned at least a few things, and the number one thing I've learned is that it's very confusing and very controversial, because the Social Security Trust Fund is in grave danger. There are concerns about making sure that Social Security exists long into the future, so that those of us that have been paying into that program are eligible to receive benefits down the road. That's number one. And I'm also confused about the folks that were able to receive their government pensions, and how the decision was originally made about whether or not they'd be eligible for Social Security. So it seems like a very difficult thing to make a suggestion in a distant place, in a distant time later, to say that those folks that created these provisions at the time, clearly with the desire to preserve Social Security and not diminish the retirement of any particular workers, that we should come back and say, well, they were wrong, and we're going to memorialize that in a state resolution. I think that's a very difficult thing to say, because my understanding would be that the folks that worked on the creation of the Social Security Trust Fund and created these provisions were acting in the best interest, at least at the time, of the people they represented. So it concerns me to kind of undermine that at some point later in the future. Do we know, Mr. Chairman, the total number of individuals impacted in the state of Connecticut?
To you, I'm aware that 2 million are affected across the country, but I do not know the number in the state of Connecticut as we sit here today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do we know if that 2 million figure includes people that are currently not of retirement age, or is that only retirees that we're talking about?
I believe it captures both those who are currently not receiving the benefits and those who, under current law, would not receive the benefits in the future. To you.
Understood. And do we had this are you aware of any public testimony on this particular resolution?
I have not reviewed the public testimony. Our cognizance over this resolution is very limited. It comes only from the fact that the Government Administration and Elections Committee has cognizance over resolutions. To you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm just curious if there's any compelling testimony or anything that the chairman might offer to encourage us to support this resolution. So far, we've talked quite a bit this morning, but I'm still not certain that this would be good policy. And I'm looking for someone to convince me. Do you have anything you might add?
Sure, Senator. So to you, I think numerous government employees in the state, especially teachers, do not currently receive Social Security benefits that they have essentially paid for and paying into the Social Security system under this federal law because they're receiving a pension for their teaching work. They view this as very unfair and is impacting negatively their retirement and is not properly recognizing the value of their work as teachers teaching our students across the state. And so I believe that that is what motivates this resolution. I can't speak to the economic consequences at the federal level, but I believe that that policy outcome, which is viewed as unfair by many, is what is motivating this resolution too.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, and I'm very sympathetic to those remarks. But you would agree that the financial impact on a federal level that certainly will trickle down to all of us paying into our federal tax obligations is relevant to the conversation.
To you, certainly the economic, tax, and fiscal trade-offs are relevant to any conversation about fiscal policy, and that would be up to Congress to weigh. To you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, no, so the way this was explained to me was that, these provisions were created at the time because it's understood that the Social Security Trust Fund is in fact an entitlement. I mean, people don't like to hear that, but it in fact is an entitlement because the amount of money that is paid into the Social Security Trust Fund by workers across the country over time has very little to do with the actual amount of money that is paid out. I mean, you could talk about the amount paid in versus the amount paid out, but one thing has little to do with the other. Their structure for the amount that we pay into Social Security is written into federal law, and the benefit is written into federal law. But it's not as if that money goes into a specific fund, is invested, and then returned back to the people that invested in it. And because it's a entitlement, like other entitlements, whether or not it would be, a heating benefit or some other type of, benefit that the state offers, or the federal government in this case. I'm sorry, I keep forgetting because I'm a state lawmaker, used to debating state legislation. The fact of the matter is that the federal benefit is in deep trouble, and they created that benefit initially trying to maintain its solvency for as long a period as possible, and I think that that's what Congress is still up to. And of course, in recent years, there's been a lot of conversation about changing the retirement age and the type of benefits, and obviously that's all very disconcerting. I think that members of both parties regard it as a third rail because they fully recognize that it's out of hand. The amount of money that's being put into the fund versus the amount of money that's being paid in benefits do not match. And that at some point the trust fund would go broke if it wasn't being heavily subsidized by other aspects of the federal tax collection process. So I just look at it as if this particular provision, while it's positive in nature, and it's certainly going to allow people to receive a benefit that they didn't before. I really question whether or not there was an understanding that they would ever collect that benefit. And I mean, I know that might sound terrible to people who are listening to this, but that's the way I'm reading this as someone who's not got no say in the fight, and it certainly is not going to have a vote in whether or not it actually becomes law. What I'd like to see is the policy that has been discussed at the federal level which I believe is referred to as the Social Security Fairness Act, which I know impacts these two provisions. I'd like to see that find its way into law, but I also would like to find a proper funding mechanism at the same time. So I guess I'm going to leave it there for now, Mr. Chairman. I don't feel comfortable voting on this particular policy for all the reasons I stated today. I really want to do right by the constituents who have come forward. We've only heard from people that are going to receive a benefit from this policy. The public hearing testimony in the Labor Committee is somewhat extensive, and I want to assure those folks that testified that I'm in their corner, actively lobbying the federal government to address this issue. But that does not mean that I believe that it's correct for this committee or this Connecticut legislature to take on a policy decision that we have no interest in because we don't now have the ability to impact its outcome. And I also furthermore repeat my opening comment that I believe this is utterly political. And really, that's distressing to me. We do politics and we do policy as elected folks, but I prefer that we leave the politics outside of the building and outside of the debating on these substantive policy decisions that we make. And I know that's difficult, and politics is often injected into our policy making, but I like to see our policy making based on common sense and what is truly best for the constituents that we represent, and have always been willing to work with members of both parties to find out what that is and to work towards it. There's so many obstacles to that, unfortunately, in our system, because politics does play a part in what we do. So I'm just gonna end by saying that I think what I'm gonna do is what I did in the Labor Committee, which is to simply abstain from this vote, simply as a protest to suggest that I know my vote doesn't matter because this is not a policy that we have any impact on. I would be doing a disservice to my constituents to cast a vote for a political argument and not a policy decision, and especially one where I'm not informed enough, and I will readily admit that I'm not informed enough. I hope my colleagues also recognize that unless they've been studying this issue for a significant period and truly know the ramifications financially, not just to the people who will receive a benefit, that's the easy part, but the ramifications to the Social Security Trust Fund and the perpetuity of our Social Security system. I think that that's the reason why Congress has failed to act, because they have real serious questions on that note. And I just, out of respect for the fact that this is a much more complex argument than is being, we're being led to believe in the form of this resolution. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to abstain from this vote. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Is there further discussion from the committee? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
House Joint Resolution 215 JF to the floor. Flexer.
Senator Flexer votes yes.
Blumenthal.
Blumenthal votes yes.
Slapp.
Senator Slapp votes yes.
Morin-Bello.
Representative Morin-Bello votes yes.
Sampson.
Pass.
Mastro Francesco.
Representative Mastro Francesco votes no.
Berger Gervalo.
Rep. Berger Gervalo votes yes.
Branco.
Yes.
Carpino. Haddad. Hoxa,
Hoxa votes yes.
Khanna,
Khanna votes yes.
Labriola, Marks,
Marks votes yes.
McCarthy Vehi,
McCarthy Vehi votes yes.
McCrory, Parker, Rosario, Santiago,
Santiago votes yes.
thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and I'll just reiterate that votes will be held open until the start of the first chamber to go into session. Next up is item number 2, HJ number 171, file number 465. This is a JF to the floor, resolution proposing an amendment to the state constitution to revise requirements relating to the offering of bail or pretrial release to persons accused of a crime. This comes to us from the Judiciary Committee. The chair will entertain a motion to JF this to the floor.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Senator Flexer, seconded by Representative Morambello. This resolution for a constitutional amendment addresses a provision in our state constitution that provides a constitutional right to bail. The policy behind this resolution is that with a constitutional right to bail, there is both inequity potentially in the fact that someone's ability to obtain pretrial release depends on their ability to pay bail, and also the inability of the government to properly address dangerousness of an individual, because no dangerous determination is sufficient to maintain someone in pretrial detention. So you could have someone who is very wealthy and very dangerous, who is allowed pretrial release, and someone who is of lesser economic means, who is not dangerous, not a flight risk, etc., and is detained pretrial as a result. Changing this provision of our Constitution would allow us to legislate on the matter and provide means to our judges to make these sorts of determinations. Is there discussion on this bill? Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I just want to express my opposition to the legislation before us. I appreciate the comments by the chairman, and I don't even disagree with the way it was presented. My concern about this legislation is that we've seen similar legislation passed in other states that have resulted in, I think, ultimately a negative outcome with more criminals being on the street. We have a crime problem in the state of Connecticut already. And my concern with this is twofold. One, I don't believe that we should be changing the state constitution for without a very good reason. And the elimination of bail doesn't strike me as one. The bail system works. I mean, the fact of the matter is that, you know, this does give the court system discretion on the significance and severity of particular crimes and the flight risk of the parties involved, so that they can make intelligent decisions on how to set bail. Once you eliminate that bail, the second part of this proposed constitutional amendment essentially turns over the process to the Connecticut General Assembly to determine what the process will be. And that's the part I don't trust. This particular majority, of course, you know, things can change over time, and therefore those policies will likely have the potential to change over time as well. But in the last decade or so, I've watched this majority pass numerous pieces of legislation that have undermined the rule of law in the state of Connecticut and have led to significant crime wave. You know, the early release of violent felons, the erasure of criminal records, the raising the age for juveniles, the elimination of certain types of juvenile detention facilities. You could just go on and on. There are probably a dozen or so similar policies that I could name that have undermined criminal justice in the state of Connecticut. And I have every reason to believe that if this constitutional amendment was adopted, what would happen is this same majority would ultimately find a way to be even softer on crime. And it's not that I want to see people in prison. I want to find a way to discourage crime as much as possible. And that's the opposite of what's occurring. And I suspect that if this bill becomes a law, there'll be a debate on a state level that I don't think the majority can win, which is the only solace I have in this, because I do believe the people of Connecticut are very concerned about the potential for the circumstances to get even worse in our state, and would put the brakes on this. But I don't want to help that process advance any further. So I'll be a no today, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Further discussion on this bill? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
House Joint Resolution 171 JF to the floor. Flexer.
Senator Flexer votes yes.
Blumenthal.
Blumenthal votes yes.
Slap.
Senator Slapp votes yes.
Moran-Bello.
Representative Moran-Bello votes yes.
Sampson.
Sampson is no.
Mastro Francesco.
Representative Mastro Francesco votes no.
Berger Gervallo.
Rep. Berger Gervallo votes yes.
Bronco.
No.
Carpino.
No.
Haddad. Hoxa.
Hoxa votes no.
Khanna.
Khanna votes yes.
Labriola. Marks.
Marks votes yes.
McCarthy Vehi.
McCarthy Vehi votes yes.
McCrory. Parker. Rosario. Santiago.
Santiago votes yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And I will reiterate once more, votes will remain open until the first chamber to go into session. And we are currently in recess. Thank you.
Representative Carpino. How would you like to vote on House Joint Resolution 215?
I'd like to vote yes, please.
You're all set, Representative. Representative Parker, how would you like to vote on House Joint Resolution 215?
Hey, Valentina, thanks. Representative Parker votes yes.
And House Joint Resolution 171.
Representative Parker votes yes.
You're all set, Representative.
Thank you.
Hello.
Senator McCrory, how would you like to vote on House Resolution 215?
Yes, I'm a yes. Thank you.
And House Joint Resolution 171?
Yes,
You're all set, Senator.
thank you.
You're welcome. Hi, Representative Haddad. How would you
Hi,
like
how
to
are
vote?
you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good.
How would you like to vote on House Joint Resolution 215
I'll vote yes.
and House Joint Resolution 171?
Yes.
You're all set, Representative.
Thank you very much, Valentina.
welcome.
Have a good
You too. Thank you.
Hopefully.